Hey guys, it is Thursday morning, and today we're going to talk about, excuse my background, it's tax season for me, but any hoodles. Today we're going to talk about some of the builder tricks that I'm seeing in your fiduciary responsibilities. So, in regards to the things that we don't know can hurt us, and crossing into areas that you shouldn't be practicing. So the first thing that I kind of want to hit on today is a little trick that I saw happening here in Denver regarding some of the builders. And there was an ad out, and it said, well, actually, I was sitting at a lender's office the other day where we were discussing this. So a buyer went out with a realtor and was showing, resale homes, new homes, all those things. And the builder had an incentive that said, we're going to buy down your rate to 2.9%, 3.9%, and 4.9%. Okay? Sounds great, right? Like who wouldn't think that was amazing? So, actually the agent called me. And so then I said, you know what? Something like I'm looking at this and I don't know what it is because I'm not a lender, but something doesn't seem quite right. So, I said, let's do this. Let's take that buyer and take that builder's estimate and send it over to my lender and just have them review it. And so they get on the phone, they didn't send the stuff. So they get on the phone with the lender and the lender says, yeah, that sounds like a pretty good deal, but I would actually need to see the truth in lending statement. And the buyer goes, they didn't give me that. So the lender said, well, go back and get one, because a lot of times, which you may not know, is that a lot of the builders are making their real estate agents and their loan people inactivate their license so that it's just the builder doing the deals. I don't know if that makes any sense. I can try to dive into that, but they're making the real estate agents that are representing their new builds, and the lenders that are communicating with buyers, they had to have licenses, but then they had to inactivate them or turn them off to work for the builder. So any hoodles. Send this over to the lender. The lender says, gosh, it sounds like a great deal. Let me see the truth of lending. The buyer said didn't get the truth of lending. So they went back to the builder and they asked for a truth of lending statement. Okay, so we're talking about a $660,000 house with 20% down. None of us are like lenders here, but anybody in the room, please turn off your mic and tell me, if you're a real estate agent representing that buyer, what kind of loan do you think that buyer's most likely going to be in without looking at their credit or anything else? If they're 20% down buying a 660 home, what do you think they're going to be in? Just anybody. Jump in and tell me. Tiffany, tell me what kind of loan you think you're going to be in it. 20% down on it. We just, come on, get.
Not your conventional loan, but
yeah,
what the one, but
right. That's what you would think, right? For many different reasons and experience. So anyhow, they send this truth in lending back to the lender, and the lender goes, whoa, let me do the numbers for the rate today, right? And so a couple of things happened on this truth in lending. They gave $100 a month for home insurance. Okay. Well, if you live in Colorado, and I don't care really where you live, I guarantee the $100 a month is just the builder's incentive rate to get the policy and what is going to happen in 12 months at renewal. Well, that home insurance rate is probably going to go up to $3,500 for the year. So that's a significant, that's like $200 more a month in a payment for a buyer. That's number one. The taxes that they ran for their payment on this 2.9, 3.9, 4.9 payment, the taxes were based off the land, okay? And the payment was, remember this, $4,475, okay? But they hooked that buyer in with the gimmick of 2.9, 3.9, and 4.9. Okay, so here's where the rubber meets the road, guys. Lenders looking at this truth in lending statement, and it's an FHA loan. Well, on an FHA loan, the funding fee, and I'm not a licensed lender, I'm going to say this, okay? The lender is telling me this, the funding fee is $15,000 a month. And the way they wrote that loan for, or the way they were quoting it, is it did include mortgage insurance premium every month of like whatever amount. So the payment was $4,475 from the builder. So the lender, my lender, sits there, and at the 6 point whatever it was, 5, 6.6, whatever that rate was, he runs through and he does the calculations based on property taxes that are what they should be and based off of property insurance. And he estimated $400 a month, not $300 like I would. Okay. So he gets done, and guess what the lender's payment came out as? With 20% down, no mortgage insurance premium. Anybody just want to guess? I mean, it's fun. Just guess. There's no like rhyme or reason. $660,000 house, 20% down. What do you think their payment was on a conventional loan at 6% instead of at 4.9 or 2.9 or 3.9? It was like $4,000 or $4,050. So my point is this: as a real estate agent, we are a fiduciary to our buyers, are we not? Like if we're hired as a buyer's agent, at least, maybe not, we are a fiduciary. And this is what makes us better agents and keeps our reputation good in the industry. We have to be asking, what did they send you? And did you run it through a regular broker and compare what you're seeing? Because the scams are getting crazier and crazier out there from the builders. And remember, who does the builder represent? The builder represents the builder, and the builder is lining the builder's pockets with these loans. Now, the lender that was sitting in front of me said, this is actually a violation. I don't remember what you call it, FCC violation or whatever, because if you're a licensed mortgage broker, it is your duty to find the best rate and the best option for what your buyer has, is what he said, right? And he goes, but I guarantee you that he has his license done a certain way so that he can't get in trouble, that it's the builder, right? And the builder isn't, I don't know how that works, right? But this is what the guy in front of me was telling me. So that is the first story, right? And anybody understand or have questions about that? Did I explain that clearly? Because on my Power Huddle, I like it when people talk. I don't like to just be talking at. No questions regarding what the builder actually did there.
So what did they do next?
Well, they presented it. From what I understand, so this buyer's agent had called me for help, and I watched her through it. So they took the regular lender's quote, and they went back to the builder, and they said, hey, man, you're presenting a scam here. And this is what the rates should be, blah, blah, blah. This is a comparison at just a normal conventional loan without mortgage insurance, whatever. We want you to give us the incentives that, we would have had. And I think they're like, because this just happened like 3 days ago. So I think they're going back and forth with the builder, and I think they're going to win because I don't think any builder really wants the public going out and telling everybody what they're doing, even though I'm doing that right now. But yeah, so I think they're going to get at least some or maybe not all of their incentives, even without using the builder. But they're in process, so I think that's where they're at this point. But the buyer is pretty upset, so the buyer might even leave and just go buy a resale. So, there's that. I heard another story that related to this. This is another agent here in town, and so sometimes, I'm assuming everybody, and maybe I shouldn't have stated, but I'm assuming just about everybody on the call has actually represented a buyer at a builder or has taken a buyer to a builder. If you haven't, let me know.
I had not.
Okay. So when you go into a builder, generally, and anybody else jump in and talk if you want to, but generally when you go into the builder, you register your buyer, you sit down, you go find the house, you go find the lot, you pick out the options, all these things, and the builder pre-qualifies your buyer, right? And they say, you're pre-approved. Okay, so in relation, sort of, to the last story, there's another agent here in town. She's in my EXP world here, and her name is Mindy. And she was representing a buyer who was buying a resale house here in the Denver metro area. And I want to say the house was like $800,000, something like that. It's irrelevant. It's just a place marker for me in my brain. So her buyer is under contract, and the seller, who are both real estate agents, are under contract with a home builder locally. And so they had to put their house under contract and sell it to be able to purchase, because that's the way home builders are. If you go under contract, we want your house sold in however many days, and they make you put down a ridiculous amount of earnest money. So, like on a resale house here in Denver, I don't know what you're going to do out there, but on a resale house, like for $800,000 here in Denver, our earnest money would be 1 to 1.5%, right? So we're talking 8,000 to like 15,000 in general. That's the range, somewhere in there that we're going to be. On the new builds here in Denver, what they're doing is they're trying to make you put $30,000 down up front, and then they're having you qualify with our lender, right? And so both these real estate agents who were the sellers on this property thought that they were qualified to purchase this house. Now they put their house on the market. They got it under contract. The buyer's now his step is due diligence. And we're coming up to the time to close. And the builder calls the seller and says, oh, we put you through underwriting and you don't qualify to purchase this house. So what do you think happened? The seller asked the buyer if they could back out, and the buyer said, no, this is the house we want. We've already done the appraisal. We've already done the inspections. We've already done everything. And in Colorado, you're under specific performance to sell. So the seller ended up having to sell and move out, and they had to they rented. They had to end up renting because the builders who don't represent your buyer are qualifying these people, but they aren't qualifying these people. They're like doing soft pulls, and they're not pulling, bank statements in 2 years and this and that, and doing their due diligence to make sure that your buyers, if you're going to the builder, are actually approved. So back to my other story where your fiduciary comes in. If you're representing a buyer at a builder, I suggest you take them to a local realtor, a local lender, and you have them pre-qualified with their W-2s, their payment, like all the things that are collected, have them fully underwritten so that you know that they can physically buy a house before you start messing around with a builder. And when you get that, and then back to my first story, when you get the builder's quote, make sure you take it back to your local lender, and have them compare the quote, because the builder is oftentimes building in the buy down that they say that they're paying for on the back end of their loans, right? So they're saying, we're providing a $25,000 buy down to get you into 2.9, 3.9, and 4.9, or we're permanently buying down your rate to 4.5%, and we're providing the $25,000. Okay, well, they might be providing the $25,000 up front to get the loan, but when you look at the truth in lending disclosure, they're putting that $25,000 on the back end, right? So make sure as a real estate agent that you don't practice outside of your field. You cannot give financial advice. You cannot, without a license to be a mortgage person, you cannot step out of that bound. But be educated enough that you can see these two things and send it to a local lender and say, can you please educate my client on what is right and what is wrong with this truth in lending statement? And I believe that that is a very fiduciary part of our business, and it will elevate us as real estate agents to stay in business longer. Anybody have any questions with that? No, y'all are a quiet group today. Okay, I have one more story for you, because I like to try to keep these at 30 minutes unless anybody wants to jump in and ask me questions, because I love talking about this kind of stuff. But feedback. Who loves feedback? Who loves asking for feedback? Raise your hand. Okay, I have a story for you. And I believe you probably saw it if you're following any of the real estate sites, the national real estate sites. There was an agent who represented a buyer, and they went out looking for houses. And, we all get the Showing Time or Broker Bay or whatever your showing service response after you show the property. Please fill out this feedback form. Okay, so you get it. And then if we're nice agents, decent agents, and we used to think if we were good agents, we would immediately take that form, fill it out, and we would say, showed great, did it show great, too high, just right, too low, on price, like whatever it is. And I was of the belief, even me, that feedback forms are useless if you aren't going to tell the agent what they actually thought, right? Like, why would you even spend the 30 seconds to say, it's a good price, it's a bad price, and then not put a comment, right? Even if it's, so this one wasn't for my buyer, yada, yada, yada. I don't need to spend too much time on it because my position has changed 100%. So a lawsuit came out where the buyer's agent showed these properties, and the buyer's agent actually told the buyer that they had feedback forms, and then, she fills them out, and what do you think of this property, yada, yada, yada. But so the feedback forms are written, usually, what does your buyer think, right? That's the key phrase here. What does your buyer think of this property? So the agent gets the form and she fills it out and she says, price is too high. Buyer is not going to offer on this property. And then in the comments section, she wrote, buyer felt like the carpet was worn. I don't even know what she said, but a bunch of, it smelled like cigarette smoke. I don't know. She's going to pass on this one. I know what it said. It said that it needed too much work and then it was priced too high. And there was something else that she wrote in there. Okay. Is there anything wrong with that? Does anybody think there's anything wrong with that? Because I didn't think there was anything wrong with that. Well, here's the story. So buyer comes back 2 weeks later because they looked at everything else in the market. And the buyer says to the agent, I want to go out and I want to offer on that one property. And the agent says, great, let me throw that property together for you and we'll send that offer over. So they do. They put up the offer, they send it over to the agent, and the response that they get back, I guess in writing, was the seller does not want to work with this buyer because they were insulted by your feedback. And basically where this is going. So and then the agent, which I suggest if you ever get that, maybe you don't forward that to your buyer, but okay. Somehow the buyer got a hold of that response, or the agent told the buyer that response. And so the buyer files a complaint and wins. Files a complaint, sues and wins. And the agent got into a lot of trouble because they ruled that it was a breach of fiduciary responsibility. Because if you're going to fill out a feedback form, you say it's from you as an agent, or you don't fill out the feedback form at all because the buyer could change their mind in 2 weeks. And if the buyer changes their mind in 2 weeks, you have now disrupted the negotiability of any property by filling out the feedback form. So my position on feedback, and I'm starting to have these conversations with my sellers, as our society is getting more and more and more sue happy, agents are, not filling out the feedback forms. And here's why. And then I have the conversation of price, location, and condition. If your house smells like cigarette smoke, you're going to have 50% of the forms that say your house smells like cigarette smoke, and you're going to have 50% of them that aren't filled out at all. Because it really does take away the ability for your buyer to negotiate. So keep that in mind and be careful what you put on feedback forms. If you're going to give feedback, I suggest maybe you call and give it to them verbally. But I don't know. I'm sure that somebody who's been in business as long as me could probably jump in and tell me their thoughts on it. But I am being very careful with my feedback from my buyers from this day forward. And I think it's definitely food to think about. Food for thought. Questions, comments. Turn off your mics and jump in and ask me. Tell me what you think. Quiet. Okay. So anybody else had any issues at builders? Anybody else feel like feedback should be required? Anybody understand or not understand what I'm saying about, you as an agent being a fiduciary regarding feedback of what you provide to listing agents? I am literally my team. I have told them, if you're going to fill out feedback forms at all, it's generic, as generic as can be. Or you put in there, would love to do feedback, but, it's a breach of fiduciary to tell you anything about what the buyer thinks. I don't know. So that's where we are with my team. And I just think that as we're moving forward in our industry, the industry is requiring us to be better and better and better at what we do, better at our disclosure forms, better at the way we communicate, what we put in writing, what we say to other agents and to our buyers, sellers, everybody across the board. And, just remember, the builders are not out there for your buyer. They're out there for themselves. So it's your job as an agent, not just to walk in and go, yay, it's a builder deal. It's easy. All I got to do is sit here and sign the builder forms and get paid. you still have to represent your buyer as a fiduciary and make sure that they can actually qualify for the home that they're writing a contract on. Because remember, the builders, they're not pulling in-depth credit. Most of them are not. And you don't want to be the agent that puts their house on the market and sells their house so that they can buy a new house. And then now you have a seller or a buyer that is going to end up in a rental because you didn't advise them to get qualified all the way. So I'm kind of passionate about that one, and that's what I wanted to talk about today. I hope it helped you. And, as you move forward in your real estate lives and as we're negotiating here in the future, I hope everything I had to say today was of some value to you and gave you something to think about. Yes. Okay. Well, I hope you guys have a fabulous day. It was a great 26 minutes with you. And I'll be back next week and I'll be talking about something else. So, I don't know yet. Autumn's asking me.
Have a good day.
Have a great day.
If you'd like more information or to get connected to the Agent Power Huddle, join our free Facebook group. This call was designed for the agents in our EXP organization, but open to any agent from any brokerage. If you're a guest and you're interested in learning more about EXP or our specific resources within the Agent Collective, reach out to the person who invited you to this call to get more info. Produced by the Agent Collective Media Network.